What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TOJ Talks. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. TOJ Pod, all 32. Saturday morning, nice and early. Paul Kilgallen of the other guys in Badlands. Paul, how we doing? How we feeling? In the wise words of Joe Caparosa.
Doing good, doing good. I'm ready for a weekend full of chasing my children around at different activities. So it was nice to be able to get up and talk Jets with you a little early. Let's do this
Yeah,
thing, man.
we got full slate of baseball, full slate of college basketball. It's gonna be a nice it's a nice sports weekend, kind of as we head into April here. I know everyone on Twitter had to correct me yesterday. I'm aware of why the MLB has the off day after Thursday. It doesn't make it any less fucking stupid that Rob Manfred is on podcast complaining about the ESPN TV deal, but at the same time,
How about every team in the MLB like basically opening with an interleague game with like an opponent that you don't care about? No division
what are
games
we
across
doing?
the MLB at all. Horrible, absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it's one of the best sports, and it's one of our both of our favorites. It's still extremely popular, contrary to what we want to tell you. It's more popular in the NBA in a lot of ways, but the way they just butcher it, like
Mm-hmm.
don't market anybody other than Otani, and started the season a week, 10 days ago. Then they went back to spring training. Then the Mets randomly play the Astros at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Thursday, and then don't play the next day when the game's inside. Very dumb. Regardless, Paul, we're kind of in that. Speaking of dumb, we're in that period of draft season now, where it's pro day season, which is kind of finishing up here. We've gone through the All Star game cycle, the bowl cycle, the All Star game cycle, combine, owners meetings. I believe Monday, Tuesday. Where are you at with? Yeah, I guess kind of the the quiet. It's so quiet, but at the same time, so many thoughts. Everyone's kind of a little bored of the same prospects and things like that. Where are you kind of settling at with where you're at with the Jets right now?
I think it's going to be hard for me moving forward to to be in the pro day time period and not think of Zach Wilson and how his pro day just completely effed this team. Because it's the typical like it's your conditions, right? It's your receivers. You're picking everything. You're lining up the chessboard however you want it to look to showcase whatever you want to showcase to the teams that are going to show up. And so much more so than the combine, the pro days I feel like are when the funky stuff starts happening with players moving very, very high up over what they've been projected to, or sometimes in the case with Tyleik Williams, it was almost a disaster, right? And it turned out to be nothing according to him, right? I guess we still don't really know the full story, but according to him, it was just a cramp and he's fine. And he went down like a ton of bricks when he was running his 40. So I don't know. It's hard for me to not associate pro days with Zach Wilson moving forward. But I think, it's amazing how we just talked about the MLB and how much they struggle to like promote their product. Meanwhile, the NFL just operates like a buzzsaw for 365 days a year. And like, even in the quiet period, you open Twitter any day, there's a ton of NFL stuff going on. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's quiet, but I guess it's relatively quiet, right? And as far as the Jets go, like
rolling ball of knives, as Meeks would say.
yeah, exactly. And as far as the Jets go, I'm as we get closer, I'm feeling more and more confident that we're going to be happy with whatever this pick is at 7. And we're not going to have that like, oh my God, what did they just do moment.
Yeah, look, I think the main thing I want to talk today is really exciting Tyler Warren, but more like mainly around pass catcher. But I feel like we're at the point, and the reason I kind of like teed you up with that is we're at the point where prospects people loved for the last 6 months, people love for the last 4 years, whatever it may be, in a lot of different cases, people start to sour on. It happened earlier in the process with Mason Graham all year. Mason Graham's going to be the pick. We got to get Mason Graham towards the end of the year. It was like around the Jags game right after that. It was like, wow, Mason Graham after the Ohio State Michigan game. Everyone wanted Mason Graham. As time's gone on, everyone's either soured on the idea of him being there or picking him. Tyler Warren was the same thing. Now it feels like a large portion actually would like prefer not to draft Tyler Warren. It's kind of turned into the Armand Membu show. It'll probably revert back at some point to Warren, then it'll switch to this guy or this guy. I guess for you, would Warren at 7 be a good pick for you? Would you be like, where would your level of excitement be? A, and B, how good does he have to be to justify a tight end in the top 7? Like what level? I threw out the comp as, what if he's Mark Andrews?
Yeah.
I'm not, and everyone was like, well, he has to be at least Mark Andrews, so he has to be an all pro to justify the pick in a lot of people's head. And honestly, I understand it, right? You're looking, and I get it. Where do you sit in terms of how good does he have to be, and what would your level of excitement be on draft night if the Jets take Warren?
Well, it's funny you talked about prospect fatigue. So like Olu Fashanu was a product of prospect fatigue. He was considered top three pretty much right up until like a month before the draft, and then that's when he started to slide down. And the Jets ended up getting him, down at 9. Is it 9 where we were
They
at
got
last
to
year?
11, yeah, they were at 10.
Yeah, and then they traded down to 11 with the Vikings. Justin Fields is another one who suffered from prospect fatigue a little bit and slipped down towards the end, where for years he was considered the 1B to Trevor Lawrence. And I think, to your point, you're seeing the same thing with Warren. I'm surprised that it hasn't been more vocalized. And I think probably this is contributing to it, but people just aren't saying it out loud. I think some of it is Kyle Brady PTSD. Just like it or not, like big white tight end from Penn State, potentially drafted in the first round. Like it's going to be in there. It's going to be in the back of people's brains. And so I wonder if that's contributing to it a little bit. I am completely comfortable with it. I don't mind. Like, I was out to dinner with a couple buddies last night, and one of them was like, it's just a shame that like the year we're picking 7 and we can really use Tyler Warren, like there's just not like a bunch of good quarterbacks at the front to like knock him down into the teens where we could maybe slide back and still get him. It's a shame, right? But it is what it is. Like, the draft is what the draft is. There aren't a ton of good quarterbacks. And so I think Joe and Connor have really hit that a lot this offseason. Is just like, look, in another year, maybe it doesn't look like this, but it's not another year. It's 2025. This is what the draft looks like. And if Tyler Warren's the pick at 7, I am completely comfortable with it. Tets seem to have slid down because of his speed, because of some other things. I do have this I have like a nagging scratch at the back of my brain that's like, what if Tet is like a Mike Evans type, right? Like just a big body who's like, speed doesn't really matter all that much because he's just going to suck in everything you throw at him. But like the opinion of him has seemed to fall in a lot. And I think the other thing for me that makes me comfortable taking Warren is how much I wanted Bowers last year. And like, I know Olu was the right pick. I'm comfortable with that at this point. But I think when you get kind of an opportunity to like redux that, like right out of the gate with another freaky big tight end, it's like, okay, like it's easy for me to get myself there. And some of Warren's weaknesses seem to be like, it's like focus issues and like, hey, if the ball's not coming his way, maybe he gets a little lazy on his routes or like his brakes aren't as tight. But that's all stuff that you can work on with the guy. And like, I think he's struggled a little bit with like power rushers in college. But again, he's 6'6", 2, whatever he is. Like, he's going to be fine. That stuff can all be taught. So I'm comfortable with the weaknesses. I'm happy with the flexibility of the player. And I think to top it all off, I've been working on, and I'm not ready to do it yet, but I've been working on a Justin Fields episode to try to like analyze his career from more of like a 30,000 foot view. And Justin Fields' numbers with tight ends are really good. They're above league average. They're above his averages when he throws to wide receivers. So in terms of like, this is a position that the Jets need to address. You can't just go into the season with Ruckert, right? And so if you're not taking Tyler Warren, then you need to get somebody later on, whether it's Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame or the kid from Miami, Arroyo, or like somebody. You have to get somebody in there. And so why not just take Warren if he's sitting there at 7, I guess? How about
Yeah,
you?
my thing is, I'd like the pick. I think is he a tier 1 elite athlete that's gonna run the 4.4s, and he's more of a tight end that I've said the Jeremy Shockey comp like 800 times, and I just feel like it's extremely accurate. Like, Jeremy Shockey he was a good athlete, he's a really good football player, and he was a lunatic. And Tyler Warren's got the hair going, the same like huge dude, big program, kind of, vibrant, loud personality, a little bit of fuck you to him. he's not Tyler Warren. I've said this a million times. Me and Mike Reiner joked about this on the pod a month and a half ago. If you were doing betting odds on Tyler Warren's 40 time, yeah, like he wasn't going to run a fast 40. He didn't test. Like it's that's not by accident. But at the same time, like I just like I think in the end of the day, like he'd be a good pick, and I think it'd give fans something to be excited about. Um, I think offensive line, you talk yourself into. You do the Lions thing, you do the like five across really good, and you get excited. Warren can help you with the right tackle situation as well. And I just think it almost kills two birds with one stone. They have not had a complete tight end in a really, really long time. I don't even know if ever really. um, and I just, to me, this is a really good class. There's other guys. I love Mason Taylor. I love Terrence Ferguson's a really good player. I like Elijah Arroyo. I don't love Elijah Arroyo quite as much as everybody else, but again, he's a good player. I just think he'll go a little higher than he probably. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously Jackson Hawes is my boy on day 3, but Warren doesn't preclude you from taking a second tight end. He helps you with the right tackle situation, whether it's a swing guy, whether it's Ozzie Trapillo in round 3, whether it's Josh Connerly in round 2, if he falls, whatever it may be. Like Warren can kind of help be that guy. We saw the Jets do it last year when they played Pittsburgh. Like as much as I'm not saying Conklin was a great blocker, he wasn't. But they used him to help Morgan Moses on TJ Watt, and TJ Watt did nothing in that game. Like that's what you do at times to kind of protect your own quarterback, to protect, a weak spot in your offensive line. I'm not saying you want to rely, they're not drafting him at 7 to do that strictly, but it would be nice to have that. And again, like I think to give the fan base, not saying that, again, this is not why you pick someone, but it's just an additional thing to give the fan base a playmaker to be excited about. I just short yardage stuff in terms of red zone and goal line stuff, like those are places they've really struggled, and a place where Warren can really help you.
How about even with like the tush push? He could run the
Yeah.
tush push if they don't ban it, right? There's starting to be some noise that they might ban it.
You can recreate something that's Warren and Fields in the it's these different things.
You could do Taysom Hill stuff.
Yeah, you
because he's a former quarterback.
It's you have a young creative offensive coordinator, and I just we'll see. I think in terms of expectations, or like if they drafted him, what would be a success? To me, I think what would be a success is the Jets winning football games, and whatever happens after that, I don't really give a shit. In terms of the actual player, I threw out Mark Andrews, threw out Shockey. I feel like people look back at Shockey, and at the time, I feel like people were disappointed by him.
Yeah,
he was a really good football player. They won a Super Bowl. He was on 2 Super Bowl teams. One of them, you obviously the broken leg with the Giants in 07. But what's success, or like what would your expectation level be of a player like Warren at 7? I think with Garrett got drafted 10, he wins Rookie of the Year. So I think people in their head are going to be like, well, Warren's got to be the Rookie of the Year. I don't know that that's happening, but is it being better than Kyle Pitts? Like, is it where do you land on what the expectation would have to be for him?
Yeah, Kyle Pitts is a mystifying one because he had a pretty good rookie breakout, and then he's just kind of vanished since then. And a lot of it seems like it's usage related, but I think I'd be pretty content if he was like a contributor and a main cog in the offense year 1. And I'm not going to like say that you need to have 500 yards or this many catches or this many touchdowns or anything like that. But if you could contribute year 1 and be like a functional part of the offense where it's a threat that Tyler Warren's going to score at any point, right? Like that's something that I could be happy with, because typically, and we've seen a little bit of this trend bucked, pun intended there, the past couple of years, but like tight ends generally take a couple of years to like fully gel into an offense. Like Travis Kelce wasn't good right away. Like it generally takes tight ends time, but if we could see a Sam Laporta-ish type rookie year, like I'm not saying to put up those same numbers, but like just to the point of like, oh wow, this guy's a real NFL player. That is something that I could at least be happy with and see, okay, where can this player go from here, right? What I don't want is what we saw a lot in the Saleh era with rookies, where it was like, why is this guy not on the field? Like, why is he inactive? Like, I feel like we saw that a lot with some of the offensive guys we drafted, even Denzel Mims, like where you were wondering, why are they not more involved? And there seemed to be almost like a hesitance to get them involved. I just want the opposite of that. Like, I want him on the field, I want him playing, I want him visible, and I want him like contributing to the offense. And if we can start from that building block point, then I'm okay if the numbers aren't crazy with at least showing something and feeling like there's a trajectory, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't need you to be an all pro. I don't need you to be rookie of the year, but I need you to look like an NFL player and be on the field, which is not really what we got from Jeremy Ruckert in the first couple of years of his career. So I guess that's a pretty low standard and expectation for me, but I think would be enough to make me happy.